everybody, Trevor here, and welcome to another Top 3 video. And as promised, I'm going to discuss my picks for the top 3 worst episodes starring Skarloey. To those of you who are new to the Thomas fandom, Skarloey was the number 1 engine on the Skarloey Railway and is one of the oldest and wisest of the narrow gauge engines. In fact, he's over 100 years old. But sadly, ever since Hit took over the brand in the 2000s, Skarloey has been drastically downgraded to a youthful, immature, and stupid engine. The same thing happened to his best friend Rheneas and all the other classic narrow gauge engines. Thankfully, ever since the Nitrogen Studios era, Skarloey has reverted to his old, wise, and mature persona, even though I thought his new voice sounds a bit too deep and booming in my opinion. But hey, beggars can't be choosers. Before we start this, I just wanted to say, if you like these episodes, that's fine. Just understand what makes certain episodes terrible and why most of us fans hate them to begin with. So without further ado, let's begin, shall we? Number 3 is a tie between Wharf and Peace and Skarloey Storms Through. The reason this is a tie at 2 is because they both have a message about being brave. In Wharf and Peace, Skarloey overcomes his fear of coming to the wharf. And in Skarloey Storms Through, Skarloey had to overcome his fear of the rain and thunderstorm. Another reason these are number 3 is because, while it is a good message to teach little kids to be brave, but the overall execution was awful. I mean, Skarloey should know better than to be scared of anything, especially if it's something trivial as a thunderstorm or the noise at the wharf. Coming at number 2 is Carloi the Brave. In this episode, Skarloey wants to prove that he can be a brave engine by doing some dangerous stunt. In this case, he couples himself up behind some empty cars up the steep slope of the incline and rolls back down the hill going very fast until he crashes into some snow. And he gets scolded for it by Mr. Percival. You know, Duncan from Season 6 was a much better episode when it comes to the climax and the episode's overall execution, because at least Duncan got his comeuppance in the end when he accidentally got his front coupling tangled, leading to him being pulled up the incline and rolls back down backwards into a giant mud puddle. Yeah, that's what he gets for being rude and bossy to the other engines at the quarry. And another reason why that episode works better is because it didn't star Skarloey, and Duncan was usually the foolish one of the Skarloey Railway, not to mention the short 4.5-minute runtime makes it even better. But what makes this one worse is that Skarloey was being a foolish and childish engine. I get he wanted to be brave, but he should know better than to do some dangerous stunt like going up the incline and back down. But thankfully, like Duncan in Season 6, he does learn his lesson in the end, and tries his best to make up for his mistake by taking some coal to the villagers. However, this episode is 7 minutes longer than the original Duncan episode. You might say that this is a ripoff of that episode, and that's why this gets the number 2 spot. Now, before we get to number 1, I just want to give a couple dishonorable mentions. The Old Iron Bridge. It would have been number 3 because I still enjoyed the 35mm camera, as well as the original music by Junior Campbell and Michael O'Donnell. But Skarloey was still out of character in that season. In fact, I honestly prefer the UK version of Season 7 in terms of the original music score. The Grand Opening. Same reasons as with the Old Iron Bridge. And the number 1 spot goes to Push Me, Pull You. In my opinion, not only is this the worst Skarloey episode overall, but it's one of the worst of Season 12. In this episode, Skarloey was told that a puppet show was coming, and he couldn't wait to take the puppet show special. After Mr. Percival said yes to Skarloey's request to take the train by himself, Thomas warned Skarloey that the train is heavy, but because Skarloey was a dumb idiot, he just didn't listen. First of all, why would Mr. Percival say yes to Skarloey's request to take the train by himself? Shouldn't he warn him about the heavy train and that he may need help from his friends? Anyway, he meets up with his friend Rheneas at the top of the hill, and Rheneas wants to offer his help. But Skarloey was too ignorant and selfish to let him help, and was like, "Haha, I'm stronger than you." And Rheneas was like, "No, you're not." And Skarloey says, "Oh, yes, I am." And then I'm like, wow, real mature, guys. You certainly are best friends. Then they decided to do a tug-of-war with the puppet show special, which is why this episode is called Push Me, Pull You, by the way. After Skarloey won the tug-of-war, the trucks pushed him hard down the hill, and Skarloey was like, "Out of the way! I can't stop!" In the first strike, he crashes into Duncan's freight cars of Bunting. In the second strike, He crashes into Rusty's train of ice cream, and in the final strike, he falls into Percival Pond. You know, Skarloey, if your brakes aren't working, why couldn't you get them repaired first before taking the train? And why do you have to be an idiot and crash into a few things on the way? You should know better than to do those things. You're supposed to be an old and wise engine, not a young and stupid one. Later, Rheneas comes to the rescue and helps Skarloey out of Percival Pond, and then like any Hit Era episode, Skarloey tries to make things right by helping out Duncan and Rusty with their jobs while Rheneas takes the Puppet Show special by himself. Overall, this episode is as terrible as the others on this list, and thank God this was the last season to have an immature Skarloey. I suggest you stay away from this episode at all costs. In the end, as bad as these Skarloey episodes were, they all have potential to be good because, in all honesty, they could have worked if they were set in a different timeline, like long before season 4 or something. For example, they could take place during the younger years of Skarloey and Rheneas, like when they were capless engines in the Railway Series book, Very Old Engines. Now let me know in the comment section below on which of these episodes you hate the most. Do you agree with my list, or have you seen worse? My next top 10 will be on my picks for the best American characters in the TV series, which I should have done a couple months ago, by the way. This is Trevor Davis, signing off.